Back at it with Bronco Chat. David Gentili with Santa Clara Athletics. Excited to be joined by the head coach of Bronco Volleyball, Erin Lindsey. Coach, it's been a long wait, among the longest of NCAA sports for volleyball to get back going. Just how excited are you to get this season started?
We are so excited to get this season started. Our athletes have been waiting a long time to be together and to really see all the work that they've put forth, not only in getting back physically in shape, but also all the team building and all the work that we've done in these really challenging times. I think it's brought us closer, and I'm excited to see how we can come together on the court and really represent Santa Clara and Santa Clara volleyball. And so I know the athletes are really excited. We're really excited to see where we are with a young group.
Yeah, no question. It's been a challenging offseason, probably better to call it a layoff with how much time it's been. What have been some of the most difficult things in terms of preparation about having that shortened offseason, not getting as much time in the gym with this new group?
I think the toughest part for us was the uncertainty and the constant changing. So not being able to really have that date out there that we were preparing for, but knowing that we wanted to be prepared and on top of anything that we may face. And so that was really difficult to stay motivated through and to juggle. I'm sure for all teams all over the country. And so for us, we just really tried to stay connected as much as we could. And it wasn't always about volleyball, but sometimes just about getting to know each other better. But we did take the opportunity to work on learning our systems maybe in a different way. So we didn't get to be on the court together to necessarily rep it out. But I think we learned a lot about what we're trying to do and some of the things that we talk about in the gym during training, even at a deeper level, because we were learning it in a different way. And we had to get really creative about how we were going to use our time to become a better group and a better unit for when we were given the go-ahead to be together physically again. And so I think our team did a really good job of that. And even though it was new and different and uncomfortable at times, I think we really took the opportunity to grow in who we are as volleyball players and teammates.
Is there an example of one area with learning the systems, kind of digging a little bit deeper that you can share, where you look at that, you look at this team's progress as you get ready for the season and say, okay, we adjusted really well learning remotely, and this was one of the ways we were able to do it?
I think it was just being able to look at the larger game from a different lens than only the lens you're practicing in. And so really challenging our athletes to understand why different teams may function in different systems or different ways, and looking at a lot of international volleyball film and looking at other conferences and other teams and not feeling so siloed in what only we're doing or only what is happening to our most familiar opponents, but really expanding and having a larger view of, okay, how could we do this? Why would we do this? And getting to have those conversations without necessarily needing to execute it in that moment, but being able to really reflect. And so I think our athletes have become exceptional students of the game over this time, which I think will just ultimately make it easier when you're out on the court and you need to make adjustments, especially to different opponents and different systems, being able to pick that up and see it and then know, oh, I've seen something like this before, maybe I'll try this. And we really try in our program to empower our athletes to really understand what we're doing at a high level and allow for that creativity and flexibility in finding their best. And so I just think all of these different exercises and film or whatever we did, position group meetings and all that kind of stuff where we really went outside the box, contributes to our athletes finding their best.
Something that sounds very cool, and I can imagine just really interesting to dive into from a coaching standpoint, that kind of expansion. So really cool example. Really appreciate you sharing that. Want to chat about some individual personnel. And I want to start with your two seniors, Gretchen Reinert, Catherine Decker, part of a team that's coming off of an outstanding season. Leadership now more than ever got to be something that you're able to lean and rely on. Tell me about what they bring to your group with their leadership qualities.
Absolutely. Catherine and Gretchen, I don't think I could have asked for two better seniors to help our team handle all of this change, and especially around staying motivated and focused. And frankly, just really grateful for what we are able to do and the opportunities that we have. Both of them are so clear-minded on being great teammates and setting an exceptional example for what that looks like, and also giving their best when they're in that moment. And so I think so much of what both of them bring is by example. And then also just kind of the willingness to put themselves out there and express vocally, what they believe our team can be and what it can look like in a really positive light. Gretchen is just the motor of our program. Like, she just goes and goes and goes and will never, ever stop. Sometimes I feel like we need to slow her down because she'll just run through walls all day. I mean, I'm sure you've heard that about Gretchen before. But I think she also has grown a lot in understanding that all of her teammates aren't necessarily going to be exactly the same as her, but that she can have great influence on how they feel about themselves and how we can communicate on the court as a group. And so that's, I would say, the most growth that I've seen in Gretchen. And we've always had that fire from her, and we've always had the push. And I think she's really grown into how to bring that to the larger group. Catherine's been she had a really interesting role last year in the season because she really didn't see all that much time early in the season. But when we went from the 6-2 to the 5-1, she was a regular sixth rotation opposite, and she helped us stabilize our passing towards the end of the season when we really were starting to get going and play strong. She provided a lot of attacking threat from the right pin, even out of the back row. And so she came on late, but I think that what she showed that she could do in this league had us feeling really confident about the role she could play this season. And I think that she brings a real sense of calm and composure to our young players. She's, been here a while. She really knows Santa Clara. She knows the university. She knows the athletic department. And so I think she's willing, and she definitely does step into that role of being a resource for her teammates and being that support that they may need. And so she may not be the most outwardly vocal, or you don't see the same sort of enthusiasm as maybe you would see from Gretchen, but she brings a lot of knowing and composure to the team.
Yeah, it's going to sound like coach speak from me, but that's something that doesn't show up on a stat sheet. And when you look at a team and the dynamics of a team and getting your group comfortable with their setting inside, outside of the competitive arena, that is really, really underrated and really cool to hear about. Julia San Giacomo, coming off of an all WCC season. She really burst onto the scene in her freshman campaign. What are you looking to see out of her in terms of her growth from a really good year one here into year two?
Yes, Julia and I have talked a lot about her consistency. And so when she talks to me about what she wants to be and where she sees the most space for growth and improvement, it lives in her hitting efficiency. And so she's always been able to get a big kill, and she knows it. But she knows that being a 6 rotation hitter at an elite level takes more than just that ability to put the ball in the floor. And it really comes down to being able to develop more range, attacking, getting that situational awareness of when to take certain shots that put the opponent under pressure, or if you have that opportunity to score the point for your team, when to take it. Along with that, technically just working on, getting her body and her feet to the ball in a way that allows her multiple shots. Because once she gets to that level, she's going to be almost impossible to defend. I mean, she works so hard in the weight room. She's gotten so much stronger than when she came in her freshman year, which has allowed her a lot more physicality. And then that tied into the focus on expanding her range offensively has really made her a threat. And so I think everyone was probably already keyed in, and they will be again, because they know that she will continue to improve. But she's real comfortable with that. She knows that that's the role she plays on this team. And she knows that teams are going to have a plan for her and key on her. And that's why she's been working really hard on developing her range, and not only being good in system, but being able to take an out of system set and really do something with it. So she continues to also work on her passing and defense. I'm really committed to having 6 rotation pins. So I don't love to take my hitters out of the back row. We will do it tactically at times, and we do have some really exceptional back row athletes, but I do like having more offensive choices by keeping my hitters in the back row. And so when you see us, you'll see that, I really like to have kind of a lot of routes being run on offense.
So we've talked senior leadership, we've talked Julia and outside for you. It's a very young group overall. More than half the roster this season is freshmen, 7 of them coming in. Now that you've gotten a chance to spend some time in the gym and on the court with this group, what are you seeing out of your freshman class?
They're great. Well, first of all, they're a lot of fun, and I think they like each other a lot. So that's always helpful. We have a very positive vibe in the gym. I think everyone really enjoys being together and having a good time. And a lot of that comes from our freshmen, because there are so many of them. And so I think it's been a great class. I think there was a kind of unforeseen benefit a little bit, especially for this class, in not playing in the fall, because they do have an opportunity to spend a little bit more time transitioning into college volleyball and getting to be in a practice gym with the coaches before having to compete. And so we've been talking about that a little bit with our incomers. We'll definitely see a decent number of them on the court. Sophia Tolino is playing opposite of Julia right now, and is looking really good. She brings a lot of consistency in effort and a lot of strength. And so she comes from Wave Volleyball Club down in San Diego. They train their athletes so well. They come in with great skill. And I think that, combined with her determination and her resilience, is really going to bring a lot to our team and her teammates. I think there are going to be times that she doesn't look like a freshman out there. But I am ready and expecting for those freshman moments because they always come. But when we see her, sometimes she doesn't look like a freshman at all. So I'm really excited about what she's brought. Nani Spar is doing a really nice job, both in the opposite and some on the outside as well. We're going to get to see a little of Lexi Papinga in the middle. We are a little light in the middle, at least for this little spurt of a season. And so both she and Alex Anthony will get a lot of time and a lot of repetition. And I think it will be great. It is really hard to be a freshman in the middle in Division I college volleyball, especially in the WCC, where a lot of the offenses are pretty fast. And so she'll have some on the job learning to do, but I think she's up for it. And yeah, to round it out, I mean, Casey Campbell, Lucy Walsh, Elena Radiff right now, definitely playing more support roles in our gym, but just making the gym better. The quality of practice that we have compared to last year is much improved. And so that will obviously make it easier in the short term to prepare for opponents, but I look at it even more as like a long-term benefit, and just the culture of our training and the gym is improving so much.
You're coming off of a 21-win season in your first as head coach of the Broncos, made it to the postseason, second round of the NIVC. We spoke after that final match of last season, the second rounder against Tulsa, and I asked, what would you remember about that season? It's a very different context when you're talking minutes after the match versus having some time removed and having some time to look back and reflect. When we spoke then, you said, I think I'll remember this weekend and being happy for our seniors and getting to continue that ride and getting that taste of the postseason. Now that you've had some time to look back on it, what kinds of things have you added to that about last year?
Yeah, I think in reflection, I was so grateful and also impressed with the team and the seniors, especially because there was a pretty good group of them in that class. Willingness to make changes, to make some adjustments to the system, to change some of the ways that the program had functioned before, and to really kind of give themselves to the larger group to see what we could do. And as I reflect on that, I agree, it was a really great season, especially coming off the season that the athletes had the year before. But I also, we've made so much progress since then too, in our systems and in our team. So I think that it gave our program the confidence and the little kickstart or, drive that sometimes teams need to believe that we can compete at the highest level and be in it. And I think that's what last season is going to do for this season's team the most, is just that confidence and that knowing that if we put our mind to it, if we have a good game plan, if we execute at a high level, and we know each other, we know ourselves, that we're going to be able to compete with anybody. And that was not something that really lived in the team last year all the time, but by the end of the season, and especially after the win at Long Beach, and having to do it in a way, with not everybody being able to make the trip, and but being able to find a way, I think it gave our athletes a lot of confidence in their ability to problem solve and have each other's back and figure out how to win. And so I think it just led to all the returnees having that core of how we do what we do, and then being able to pass it on to the youngsters. And so we were able to just pick it right back up when we started our fall practices.
All right. So from last season to this season, start out with a big matchup, taking on Santiago in the first two home matches. It's a really good program and has been for a really long time. And now you've been on the other side of the bench a couple times facing Santiago as head coach of Santa Clara. What have you seen from their program to say, yep, they're very successful, and now we've seen why? And I know that coaching gets them because of these kinds of things.
Yes. Jen has done an exceptional job of consistently recruiting really competitive athletes and volleyball players. And right now they're in a situation where they have a lot of experienced pin hitters. And in volleyball, if you have experienced pin hitters, because those are the ones who are going to have to play the ball the most, you definitely have an advantage. And so she just has some outside hitters and an exceptional opposite who really know how to take advantage of their opportunities when presented to them and how to manage when they have to rally. And so that's been consistent. They've always had really good setting as well. And their senior setter was exceptional. And I feel like kept them in and really was a huge part of their championship last year. She's no longer there, but they had another setter waiting in the wings who is very strong. And so I think to beat San Diego, especially this team, you really have to bring your best that day. They're not going to, they're consistent enough and experienced enough that even if things break down a little bit for them in serve receive or things like that, it's not going to be the end of the world for them. They know how to handle that. And so I think just staying determined and consistent and on our game plan and not giving away easy points, like really making them earn their points is the way that you have to play in order to stay in it. And then to win, you have to have some big performances. And so I think that's how it should be. I think that's what the top of our league in the WCC should look like. We're competitive nationally. And if your team is not that, if our top team is not that way, then we're not competing at a very high level nationally. So I'm excited that, you know, they've played really well, even just these last, you know, few matches without having their full lineup. They still look very consistent and organized and where they need to be. And so I think it'll be a real challenge to start with them, but I also think it's a great way for us to bring what we have and see where we are, and see if we can game plan and get ourselves in a situation and go out there with competitive spirit and joy and togetherness to be able to come out and make a run.
All right, Coach, we've talked a lot of business. We've talked a lot of shop. Let's end it on something fun. With the pandemic and all the changes that have come about, a lot more virtual meetings and just different kinds of ways that you're now becoming used to interacting. Tell me about some of the fun things that the team has been able to do with that medium since everything got going.
Yeah, I would say that our athletes are going to be able to answer that a lot better than I am for you, because we did really not want it to seem like corny old people stuff and ideas and force them to like hang out with us on the computer. But they did get together a decent amount and had their own get-togethers and meetings, especially back in the spring and in the summer when we didn't know when we would be back and things like that. They got together and did some trivia nights and put together some fun trivia and got together with some other teams on campus and really tried to just keep those connections going. I think in our meetings, the formal team meetings, I like to think they're fun. I think maybe a lot of coaches live in that space. You'd have to ask them how fun they think it is. But I think really just changing things up. And we did spend a lot of time talking about life outside of sport and all the things that were going on in our communities, in our families, in the country. And it wasn't always fun. Sometimes the conversations were difficult, but I do think our team really leaned into getting to know one another in a deeper way. Even though we can't be face to face, we tried to find ways to connect in what we were talking about. And so we would have some like partner meals where we were just eating in front of computer screens with each other or having coffee, but really getting to know one another. And so, even though sometimes that was hard and we get Zoom fatigue and all the things that everybody is dealing with, I do think that the time the team put towards being a great group and really truly knowing and caring about one another is really going to pay off now that we're back together.
Bronco volleyball head coach Erin Lindsey with a nice snapshot inside the program ahead of this 2021 spring campaign. Coach, this was fun. Really enjoyed chatting with you. Thanks for your time and all the best for the season.
Absolutely. We're looking forward to having everyone cheering for us through the computer screen, and go Broncos.